Welcome to Podula Rasa. I'm David Blank.
And I'm Jim Esch.
This is a podcast about finding something in nothing.
Welcome to Podula Rasa. This is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-host Dave and a special guest, Jim Morris, one of the original founding members of Zeus and the Druids, which we talked about in one of our very early episodes, more than one episode, I think. We learned the whole history of that band.
It's still happening.
So yeah, welcome, Jim.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I really love your podcast. So it's great to see you guys again.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Our show theme for today, Dave knows, but I'm not really sure what it is. So he's going to tell us all about it. What are we talking about, Dave?
Sure. So the show theme is out with the old and in with the new ? And it stems from our first two podcasts and on fear and moving. Some feedback that Jim Morris had sent us last week, and so the theme for me kind of came out of this process of rebuilding at my soon-to-be old house in Lebanon, New Hampshire, where we had a disaster a few weeks before we were supposed to sell the house. And I was in a situation where I had gotten what I wanted to happen, because the whole process since the disaster has just been very frustrating. And everything started to fall into place. And my initial reaction was one of fear, and just to sort of stop it, even though what needed to happen was, or what I wanted to have happen was actually happening. Things were working. It was really striking to me, because I sat down and thought, why would I want to kill this? This is what I've been looking for. So then we started talking about it, and then Jim Morris came in, and you talked about nightmares, like actual fear that you've had from those. And so I thought these things could kind of mold together. So if Maury Joseph is listening and wants to diagnose any of us, we can email you our insurance information, and maybe this can be a professional Tom Williams interventionist something. I don't know.
Maury's got to have a haiku that could help all of us, and maybe he'll do it pro bono, right?
Oh, I hope so, because everything else is costing me a lot.
Well, anyway, Dave, I wanted to know why you think you had that reaction, that fear reaction, when what you wanted to have happen was happening. That's puzzling.
Yeah, the only thing that I can figure is that at every step along this process, it's been, I'm looking to find some information, and the story changes, and then I have to back up and back the person up who I'm talking to and say, no, you said this. And so everything has been like stop, start. And this didn't need to stop. But yet, like everything else in the process, literally since the middle of July, has been, no, wait, that's not what's supposed to happen. And then, so I think that could be it.
So was it like this turn of events didn't fit that frame?
Correct.
And it's like you couldn't process it or something.
Exactly. Even though it was a positive thing that the fear kicked in, and I just, I reacted the same way.
Was there a way that you spun out of that? And
I recognized it, and I texted you, and I thought, this is something interesting. Yeah, it was strange. I guess when you expect something to not work long enough, I think it's kind of like when you are pursuing a girl in high school, and she finally decides to go out with you. It's like you can't quite believe it.
yeah, that never happened to me. I didn't get that far.
But that could be terrifying. Yeah, everything you ever wished for
happened.
Now what do I do? Right. Yeah. Now I have to live up to everything I've been thinking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that relate to what they call the fear of success? Like, I don't know much about it, but it sounds like the fear of a good thing happening. And
Yeah, I've definitely been pinned down to that diagnosis, I think, because it just I'm a chronic procrastinator. And one of the first things they say is like, well, it's because you're afraid of succeeding. And I don't know how true that is, but it could be. It sounds more sophisticated than just being lazy, I guess. If there's some kind of more, psychological thing going on. But like, I think of like, even, graduating from college, every paper I had to do was always at the last minute, staying up all night. And I still do some of that even at work. I've got a big project, something due the next day. It's not until I have that last minute energy that I really sit down and get things done. And it stinks because it's a high anxiety, it's fear. You may not get it done. What am I doing? How did I get into this situation? I did it to myself again, and it's terrifying.
For what it's worth, you can turn that around, because I used to be exactly the same. And then when I made my career the way it's gone, where I've got like different sources that I have to satisfy, and I do everything as fast as soon as possible all the time. And I think I get anxiety if I don't get it done the first day, even if I
Wow.
have 7, because I don't want it to linger. I want to check it off, because I've got such a
Wow.
long list. And so it's possible, because I used to be exactly the same.
Huh. That sounds healthy to me. I could use some of that. Thinking about graduating from college, like if I actually finish this thing and then what? Then I'm cast out into the world. If I'm able to just delay this until the last possible minute. I don't know.
it's like there's always something on your to-do list. But when you check off all the boxes, what now? And it's like you just face the void or something.
Right. Now you actually have to make decisions about what to do next.
What am I? Where do I want to go now?
Yeah.
But this sounds like a different kind of fear than what you were talking about, Jim, in your show feedback to us. You want to get into that type of fear?
Yeah. Well, when you guys were talking about fear, the first thing I thought about was like nightmares, like visceral fear that you're being attacked kind of thing, like you fear having in a nightmare. Yeah, and I had just had a nightmare, so I was describing it to you that I felt something clinging to me, and it was I'd gotten up in the middle of the night, and as I was coming back to bed, there was something holding on to me. Well, I'd gone back to bed, and then I dreamt that I was coming back to bed, and this thing was like holding on to me, and it was. I kept trying to push it away, like, no, leave me alone. And I don't know if it was trying to drag me back to where I came from, or just trying to envelop me, but it felt like dark, evil. And I wake up, as you often do from a nightmare. I wake up yelling, for help, like screaming, get away from me. And it's real fear. And when it's a very vivid nightmare, that lingers afterwards. So like the next night when I got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or something, I'm watching for that fear. I'm watching for that presence, even though it was entirely made up in my mind.
So there's no basis in your real life.
Right. I say it's real fear, but actually it was the opposite of real fear. It was,
Yeah.
the feeling was real, but
Well, I mean,
obviously it wasn't real. Yeah.
like somebody might wake up having had a horrific experience in their youth or something, and they remember it the rest of their life.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So this
Like
is just,
PTSD type of thing.
yeah. So this wasn't like that at all.
I thought it was worth sharing because it was very kind of I don't know, poetic in its nature. Like, it wasn't like I was going to be attacked by a person. It was just kind of like this spirit type of thing. And then when I was saying all this, I realized it kind of made me think of your last podcast episode about moving and being able to let go of things. And so I thought about how this darkness clinging to me, was that something I should be moving on from? Like, and when you move to a new place or you move to a new job, you have to let go of some things, and you try to embrace your new situation. And sometimes if you hold on to things from your past, a marriage or something like that, you have to let go. So this thing clinging to me, was that something I should be letting go of, or something I should be welcoming in? Like you're supposed to do with your demons. Welcome. Greet your demons and ask them what they want. Maybe that's what I should have done to this source of fear.
Or just accept it as not real and let it move past you.
Right.
I think that's what I've done, because when we had our flood in our basement, we lost a lot of stuff that was very meaningful to me. Like there were pictures, things that had like no value. So if State Farm's listening, they had a lot of value, but like, it was just to me. My wife had it was just stuff that we looked at and it was ruined. And it was like, okay, so it's gone. And that was literally it. I didn't grieve for it at all because it was just stuff.
Wow.
But
that's healthy. I mean, just to let stuff like that go.
There was nothing else to do.
I know. Yeah. It was taken from you. So you
Right.
had to let it go.
Yeah. It was like, I've been broken into once and had things stolen that really meant a lot to me. The one was a silver ring that I got that my dad and mom bought for me in Arizona in 1979. It had waves on it. It went like from Hopi country. And when that was gone, I should have been devastated. There was no way to replace it. And yet to this day, it worries me that I wasn't connected enough to it, even though I hold on to stuff like nobody does. And until it was forced out of my hands fairly recently.
Jim, there's something you said in your email I want to quote that I made a connection to. It was in your last line. You said, I don't want to leave behind the feelings that are important to who I am, but other times I'm holding on to, clinging to what should be left behind. And I like that. And it made me think of this song I wrote back in the old Joe days, Clinging to the Noose. And I don't remember, that was
Classic.
The title. I was always trying to come up with like Tom Williams worthy titles.
Were we all?
And I don't even remember the lyric too well. It was kind of bizarre. But I do remember thinking cling to the noose, like that image is like you're hanging on to the thing that's strangling you, that's choking you. Why are you clinging to it? If you just would like cut it off or let yourself go from it, then you'd be free from it.
Right.
It's easier said than done, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you tell the difference between things that are worth keeping, worth holding on to, and things that you really should be letting go of? Remember a nightmare I had, the show about Jim's nightmare. This was a while ago. I used to have dreams about animal neglect. Like I'd have a pet, maybe a pet that I used to have, and they were still with me, but I kept forgetting about them. And like I would forget to feed. And this was like my family dog when I was little. Like I'd forget to feed her, and she'd be sick, and I'd forget about her, and would wake up feeling so guilty that like, see, I'm a terrible person. I'm forgetting about something that I should be taking care of. And then it dawned on me, no, that dog is gone, Jim. You don't need to feed it anymore. You're trying to feed a ghost that's no longer here. And it just gave me a new perspective on those types of dreams. It's not, I would immediately just feel guilty. It must be telling me there's something wrong with me. It might actually be telling me something very different. That's kind of like the risk of over interpreting dreams, because you're going to interpret it according to your own mindset anyway, and how do you interpret symbols correctly, you know? But it was, but it brought out that decision between, is it something I should be letting go of, that you're clinging to, like a noose? You shouldn't be clinging to it. A noose, like you might recognize it as a noose. It might look like something that keeps you suspended, you know, that holds you up. No, it's not.
I often think with dreams like that, that the dog in your dream, or the evil force or whatever. So when I'm trying to interpret my dreams, I always think, well, maybe that's some part of myself. Like that dog is like some part of myself I'm not feeding, right? Or neglecting. It's a little bit of a different interpretation than you had on it, which I think is probably the more valid one. So often I realize like these other characters that appear in my dreams are just different pieces of me that,
right.
you know, I need to like get to know better, or accept, or let go, or kill off.
Fathers loved us long before we ever came to be. Light of night, too often seen by those who never see. Forgotten heroes of the world, created by dreams. Question rising to us now. Things could mean what they seem. Reasons sought for every truth. Time allowed us to tell. The man who died will speak in signs of those who know too well. Their lips and tongues, those who speak where the ships and the bones, those who stop sign planted in the ground has grown in memory. Doorknob, keyhole, matchbook, signpost, dawn of history. Turning from the mouth of glory came to be the lash of us so nullified, taught us theories, turns on. To answer bells, and he walks on the seashore made of glass. And he listens to the shells, the shells, the shells. They're made songs. Those who sing them will the end and the wrong. And those who fathers loved us long before we ever came to be. Now and then remember to our fathers and stay free.
What about you, Dave? Do you have nightmares?
I have had nightmares in the past, and I got rid of them by writing about them. Like I had a nightmare about a nuclear holocaust in 1984, and I wrote a poem about it. And I had the nightmare a few times again, the exact same dream, and but it didn't mean the same thing to me. These days, I don't really have nightmares. I think my dreams are just kind of odd. I had a dream last night that had words that I know from where I'm living now, but in the context of the past, I can't remember any of the details. But the only actual nightmares that I really have, they're all physical. Like I wake up and I think I've laid the wrong way and I can't feel my arm, and I think my arm's chopped off, or you know, and I get up and I scream and I realize, okay, that didn't happen. But that's the extent of it. There's nothing. It's almost like there's nothing going on in my head at that point. It's only physical. It's not. Maybe that's been a problem of mine for my whole life. There's not a lot going on upstairs. I don't know.
Some dreams are just really cool. I mean, I think it's fun to dream, and if you remember it, when you write it down, the more you're supposed to be able to remember your dreams. So I like to try to do that. I often forget, but if it's a really cool dream, I try to write it down because it's like a science fiction story or something.
Right. Yeah. One nightmare I had when I was a kid, I still remember it in some detail, was that the setting was kind of like, it felt like being in a 70s TV show, like the Rockford Files, or one of those like CBS shows like Mannix or Barnaby Jones or Cannon or one of those. And
August,
yeah. So it was sort of like a California setting or something, like where they used to film all those shows. And I remember I was attending somebody's wedding, and that was an outdoor wedding at some park someplace, and everyone was dressed up in these very loud 70s tuxedos and like frilly and like wide lapels, and the men were very like scruffy and long hair and bearded and curly hair and stuff. And then all of a sudden in the middle of this wedding, like the men like whipped out these machine guns and just started mowing everybody down. Jeez. And I just ran for cover. We talked about fight or flight. It was flight all the way. I was like, I got to get out of here. And it was like the most terrifying dream. And I think it was because of the unexpected. Like you don't expect that kind of thing to happen at a wedding. It just came from out of the blue. And I also used to have scary dreams about planes flying into buildings and tornadoes and all that.
Whoa. And
like a lot of tornado fear dreams. I guess like seeing the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that scarred me. But with the flying monkeys and the tornadoes, it was either like one of those two kinds of dreams, like the evil monkeys. The weird thing was after 9/11, I never had one of those disaster dreams again.
Wow.
But before that had happened, it's like I was imagining something like that happening, with like planes going into buildings and that kind of thing. It's weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good thing you're not having many dreams now.
Yeah.
Like if you are, you should let somebody know.
I should be working for the government or something.
That's right.
The idea of going back to fear, and that's why I thought of dreams. But I was also thinking about that idea of real fear, unreal fear, fear of saber-toothed tigers versus fear of failing my exam or something. Like, and the flight or fight response comes. It used to be from a real threat, from the neighboring enemy or the animal or the things that could literally hurt you. To today, we don't have saber-toothed tigers, but we had this natural response to react to things. So we have to find something to be afraid of. Like at least I guess that's like the textbook, explanation of like anxiety. Like it's fear of things that are not actually going to harm you, but you have a response like something's actually going to physically harm you. So you have to fight it or you have to run away from it. and I don't know. So I was wondering, like when you guys were talking in the earlier episode about, like, you don't remember really having much fear. And I was wondering, are you anxious, or and is like fear being represented in some more like modern way? uh,
Yeah, the anxiety is there a lot for me, especially
yeah,
like lately, like the last year, I think, or half year. I would think a lot of it's like, what do you call it? Like, to me, fear is more intense and terrifying, but it's on the same spectrum as anxiety. Like the one blends into the other.
yeah.
Right.
It's almost like like real fear would be almost a relief sometimes, because like, give me something that I can actually react to, instead of anxiety of like, I don't know what's happening, or
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do, or like Dave says, things aren't in control.
This is a little anxiety that was been on my mind this week, and maybe it connects with like Dave's opening story. I had some car trouble over the weekend, so I drove down to Delaware. I dropped Stacy off at Concord Mall, and she was shopping at Boscov's, and then I went to this little record store I really like called Jupiter Records. I'm going to put a plug in for them because they're great. I traded in some old albums and I got a bunch of store credit. So I'm like, I'm going to go down there and see what I can find. So I go in, I find a couple albums. I found Pink Floyd Umaguma on CD, but you don't see that often. And David Bowie, Space Oddity. I was all happy. I go back to the car, it wouldn't start. I turn the key and it's like, click, 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 click. And then like the fear, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, was like, how am I going to pick up my wife? Like, she's like stranded at Concord Mall. And I kept trying a key and I turned it around and it wouldn't start. And then I'm going to have to call AAA, but how are we going to coordinate this? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm like calling Stacy on the phone. And as I'm talking to her, like the car started. So then the next few days was like this big hassle. I drove straight to the Buick dealer and made an appointment, but they couldn't see me till actually it was going to be today. And then Labor Day, like nothing's open on Labor Day. Like, I couldn't take it to a mechanic. So I had to wait till Tuesday. And then I went to my local mechanic. But in the intervening days, I kept testing the car. And sometimes it would start right away. And then sometimes it wouldn't start. And then I thought, well, I'll try the remote start. And then that worked. But then sometimes the remote start wouldn't work. And I'm trying to figure out like what this problem is. Like, what's wrong with the car? It's like intermittent problems are the worst. It's like it would be easier
Right.
if it just was dead. Right. And then it's like, I can't, the car's broken. I got to get it fixed.
Yeah.
But I was like anxious for days about this. And my wife was looking at me and she's like, just don't worry about it. Just like take it into the shop and get it fixed. But I'm like, well, I'm going to have to get towed if it doesn't start. I'm not going to like, I don't want to have to go with that hassle and blah, blah, blah. When I would test the car, we would like do these little trips. I would leave the car running. Like, so I was
Or park it at the top of a hill.
Right.
So you can.
Right. So yeah, it was just like, it was like, and I knew I was being ridiculous, like, but I couldn't stop myself from having that anxiety. And then finally, Tuesday, I guess it was, Al, my mechanic, said, yeah, I can, like, you can drop it off this afternoon. You have to wait till the afternoon because the little lot will be crowded. So at 1, I'm like even before 1, I'm out there like trying to start the car and it wouldn't start. It took like 6 tries for it to start. And I finally got it started. And then I drove past his garage and the lot was full. Like this, it's like being in a weird dream, right? Like there's no place to park the car. What do I do? But I can't turn the car off. I got to keep driving. So then I like pick Stacy up and like, think of an errand to go on. Like, do you need anything at the store? So we went to Colonial Village and like she bought a couple groceries and I was like, left the car running, and then like I dropped her off back at home. And then finally I drive past the place. There was one spot, I pulled in there. And then like I gave him the keys. I was so relieved to like just get the car there. And then like he didn't look at it till like late yesterday. So I was waiting all day. Like I called them in the morning. Like, did you figure out what's wrong with it? Blah, blah, blah. All the car needed was a new battery.
It's almost like you cared too much.
But that's the thing. Like you want control over it, and like when you don't understand it, and
But it's like must keep driving. I can't
Right.
stop. Like I've got to do something. Like
the car will
Yeah.
never start again. You know.
Right. Well, it's we almost need a Zen Buddhist, let go of the bottom of the river already and just flow along with the river. Stop trying to hang on.
This has also been on my mind because I meditate every morning, and I love to meditate. It's great, but it's like the one little island in my day where I can just be calm, right? But it's really hard. It's been hard lately to sort of carry that awareness over just into my day-to-day activities. It's almost like now I can be nervous about everything, because I have this little like 25-minute slot devoted to being
right.
like at peace with myself. It's really
Right.
weird. So I'm working on that.
Like at one meditation course or kind of online thing I was doing, like said, like try to like use some cue in your daily actions to like remember to breathe or something like that. That's like when you stand up or when you walk under a door frame or something like that. At that point, just use that as a cue to say, just breathe or go into that space for a second. But it's amazing how pretty much impossible that is. I mean, you just, oh shoot, I just stood up. Oh, I forgot.
You get sidetracked easily. Yeah.
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 It's like today I'm going to remember. Today I'm going to remember like at noon. I'm going to like take 5 minutes to breathe.
Right.
Afternoon's gone. You're like, why is that so hard?
So I picked up the car yesterday, and I was it was like I crashed after that. Like everything was alleviated, and I basically fell asleep on the couch at night, and then I went to bed and fell right asleep, and I slept all the way through the night. This felt great. And then today, like shortly before this podcasting session, because I've been in this pattern where I like have to test the car, try to start it, let it run. I'm like, I just want to start the car again. So I started it and drove down to the little shopping center. And it was so nice for the car to start. It was like that little moment of just ignition. I never enjoyed that as much as I did today. It's like, wow, the car starts. Like it's like, what a little miracle. Like you turn this key and this machine fires up. And I really enjoyed that I didn't have to worry about it.
That's great. It's just like learning to be thankful for like the simplest thing. There's like there's a G.K. Chesterton quote about like people claim it would be like amazing if I could just fly to Victoria Station or something like that. And it's like, no, what the miracle is that you can get to Victoria Station at all. Every moment is miraculous,
It is kind of like the same thing that happened to me leading up to this. You just have to be intentional, I guess, and know when to be intentional. And it's not always easy.
Well, once again, we covered a lot of turf. I don't know if we solved anything, but we definitely cleared the air today, I think.
Yeah, there's a connection between everything we talked about, I think.
Yes, there's always a thread. So thanks, Jim, for joining us in this conversation. Thanks,
Yeah,
Dave.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon on the podcast.
Thank you for listening to Padula Rasa. Special thanks to our bandmate Jim Morris for his participation and insight on today's episode. Padula Rasa is created by Jim Esch and Dave Blank from their home office studios in Westchester, Pennsylvania and Gettsville, New York. Padula Rasa is available on many popular podcasting outlets. If you liked what you heard today or would like to add to the conversation, please send us an email at padularasa@gmail.com. We hope to hear from you.